DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this evening, we have some more appetizers for you, And I'm talking UFC 321. So that's UFC 321, Aspinall versus Gane, Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. And this just happened this past Saturday. So October 25th, 2025 at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, and there was an attendance of 13,220, and then there was no total gate announced. So get a little bit into this card before we go through the predictions and the picks and all that. This card happened in Abu Dhabi, so it was like it started at 9 a.m. with the prelims and all that, and then the main event, the main card, like the pay-per-view, what would be the pay-per-view card, it ended up starting at like 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So luckily it ended up being over like at 3:30 because with how the main card went and then how the main event went, I'm glad I wasn't forced and had to stay up till midnight to witness what I witnessed in the co-main event and the main event. Just the entire card really, because this was a bottom. Honestly, it was a bottom heavy card because nothing real exciting happened outside the first fight on the main card, and then there was a little bit sprinkled in there with the prelims where you had a couple knockouts and things like that. But other than that, this card, I originally mentioned, like from face value, this looked like a really kind of not a really good card, but I thought there was some opportunity for it to be better than expected because you had some possible title eliminator bouts at heavyweight and bantamweight, and then obviously you had a title on the line for the women's strawweight, and then you had Tom Aspinall defending it. So you thought some of those bouts would have turned out to be more impressive and have a lot more watch value to them. But this card really didn't. So I'll just get into the prelims before I get to my picks. So we mentioned that I really was interested in this card, and pretty much like felt like I had to watch it because talking on this podcast, I'm always talking about the beef. I like the heavier weight classes just for the opportunity to see a brutal knockout or see someone get one of their arms or legs snapped off because you just like heavyweights, and it's not just heavyweights, also 205 pounders. Because when I look at MMA, mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, all that, like it's the heavier. It's once you get into like 205, 250 is where they like to have that moniker, like baddest man alive, and you don't really just don't have that for a guy that's 155 pounds. Or 155, 170, like a lot of people were probably looking at Conor McGregor there for a little while, but you can't tell me the worst heavyweight in the UFC would not, with like one or two punches, would knock Conor McGregor, peak Conor McGregor out. But so that's what really had me interested in this card, is because there was four heavyweight fights on the card, and I would really say only one of the four ended up being like exciting. All the other ones I would say, were pretty disappointing. I'll just start with the first one on the prelim card that kind of was really disappointing. You have two really, I guess Hamdi, a heavyweight, Hamdi Abdullah Wahab. He's kind of more of like I wouldn't say young, but he's not as experienced. Like he's not really a veteran UFC fighter because he hasn't had a bunch of fights. But you have Hamdi Abdulahab defeating Chris Barnett, who Chris Barnett has had a decent amount of fights, and he's what 39 years old. So after the performance he had, Chris Barnett had on Saturday, I could easily see that being him getting cut from the UFC now, or he just needs to retire because we had a Hamdi Abdulahab defeated Chris Barnett by unanimous decision 29 26, 29 27, 29 27. And the reason it's 29, even though it shows that Hamdi Abdulahab won every round or Chris Barnett lost every round. Even one of the judges had it that he lost one of the rounds 10-8. It's because Hamdi Abdulahab landed some pretty good elbows flush to the back of Chris Barnett's head. But mostly it was after like the first minute or two, both of these heavyweights were pretty much gassed. So it was just Hamdi Abdulahab taking Chris Barnett and down and just laying on top of him and getting stood up a little bit from not doing anything, but there was little to no striking or really any significance. Strikes landed in the striking game, no real submissions going forward. That was just that may have been the worst fight on the card just because you had two heavyweights that are just gassed after like the first minute or two of the fight. So even though Hamdi Abdulahab was able to take Chris Barnett down, he wasn't able to land enough consistent ground and pound or powerful enough ground and pound to get the stoppage. I mean, the most exciting part of that fight, and maybe the most exciting part moment of the entire card, and pay-per-view included, was towards the end of the second round. Chris Barnett was having a problem keeping his shorts tied and keeping his shorts up. I mean, towards the end of that second round, his whole ass came out. He had his whole ass out for a second, so he mooned the entire crowd and anyone watching the UFC event that early. So we got to see a full dark moon uh, early in the prelims there. But I would say that was the most exciting moment in that fight and maybe the entire card. So the first heavyweight bout was a dud, but then we had another one just like two fights later. We had a heavyweight bout between Walter Walker versus Louis Sutherland, and I would say this was really the only heavyweight bout that hit because it was something record breaking and kind of historic with Walter Walker coming into this bout. He'd already had like uh, three heel hooks or ankle locks or knee bars like in a row, just leg locks in general, either the ankle or the heel or the knee. He'd already had three in a row or three in his career. And then he comes into this bout against Louis Sutherland. And at the 124 mark of the first round, he just kind of dropped to the ground, grabbed a hold of Louis Sutherland and did a heel hook on him and submitted him. So that we got to kind of see. We didn't get to see anyone get their head knocked off, their block knocked off or anything, but we got to see Walter White go home with Louis Sutherland's ankle or foot because he was going to break it off if Louis Sutherland didn't tap. So yeah, we'll get into the other two heavyweight fights and the main card here, but I'd say that was the one of the four that hit because we got to see kind of something historic. We've never really seen that many like leg locks and heel hooks and ankle locks and knee bars from a heavyweight like that. So that was pretty cool, pretty awesome. And then let's see, we had and then the main event on the prelims was really good as well. Just the finish of it really. You had a lightweight bout between Quillen Kill versus Mohammed Nazareth, and that was a pretty even fight up until the 230 mark of the first round where they were just kind of striking and didn't look like anything real devastating or damaging was landed, and then just kind of out of nowhere, I think I missed it like twice while watching it. Like just looked away for a second or glanced down at my phone or put some dishes away in the sink and missed it. And then I missed it even on the highlight. I was lucky watching a stream. I think that you could rewind a little bit, so I was able to catch it. But man, that thing just there was no tail on it at all. It just came straight up, and Muhammad Nazareth caught a full-on shin right to the side of the head, right to the temple, and he was out for a long time. He was shivering and shaking on the pavement. It was such a devastating KO. It even had Quillen skill kill a little worried there, concerned there for a little while because it took I don't know, it took several minutes before he was able to set up on the stool. So that was a devastating. We got our like I said, those are some of your best moments right there. Were on the prelim, the main event of the prelims, and then that heavyweight bout. You got to see something kind of historic. Four leg locks, some versions of a leg lock from Walter, the heavyweight Walter Walker. So that was the prelims, which, as you can tell, there were a couple moments that were exciting and kind of sprinkled in there, and it was enough to think, oh yeah, maybe the main card's going to live up to its billing and be just as good, or at least have one or two moments kind of mixed in there. Well, I guess we'll get into the picks. I can say at least my picks were pretty good in regards to correctness and even method to some extent. But just overall, like I said, I already said it. I was glad this card was an early one, was a morning start to just like evening finish, because I would have been pretty annoyed if I'd have stayed up till midnight to watch this. But anyway, so let's get into the main card. So can I get a menu? And so the main card started out great. I was talking about when I picked this fight. I originally picked Asmat Murskanov to knock out Alexander Rakic, and I thought, man, a real brutal knockout, that would be a great way to start off the pay-per-view. It would be a great curtain jerker for the main card. And we got it. We got it. So we looked at it as a big step up in competition for Murakhanov, but you wouldn't have been able to tell, especially with how the fight ended. And it ended at the 3:11 mark of the first round. And I hadn't really put any stipulations on the round, but I had it as a knockout and has Asmat Murakhanov to get the knockout. But it was like kind of like the Quillen skill kill fight. It was pretty even up until the ending. You had both Murkanov and Rakic both landed a couple significant strikes, but nothing too serious. But something that was kind of noticed as the fight went on in just the first round was Alexander Rakic. He was doing this like thing where he would like kind of like jump in and like really like just kind of like surge in, like not going for a takedown, but just like rushing in, and that's ended up being what ended up being his ending to this fight, because he did one of those like really like jolt in. I don't know if he was thinking about going for a takedown or he's just trying to catch his range, but he landed right like just like jumped and vaulted himself right into like a short right hook from Murakhanov, and that knocked him out. It knocked him out. He literally ran right into it. Like he just jolted forward and like ran right into it and KO'd himself, honestly, almost. So yeah, so the main card started out great. Like I was excited. I was like, man, I hope this can carry over. Had a great curtain jerker. So let's move on to the heavyweight bout. So in this heavyweight bout, I picked Alexander Volkov to win originally, but I thought he was going to get the knockout, even though Gelton Almeida never really been knocked out a whole lot in his career, and has a good chin, and just doesn't have a lot of knockout losses. But this fight went what was once again kind of not the most exciting fight in the world. It kind of had it wasn't quite as bad as the Hamdi Abdulahab Chris Barnett fight, but that's really kind of all it was Gelton Almeida taking Alexander Volkov down. But when he'd take him down, he wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't do anything. So the short time between starts of rounds and things like that, Alexander Volkov really was the only one that landed like anything significant in the striking game. But then when he would get taken down, Alexander Volkov was the only one laying any type, dishing out any type of ground and pound. He was landing lots of punches and ground and pound like from his back, and even had a couple attempts at a Kimura and almost got Jailton Almeida in a triangle choke. And really the only submission, Jailton Almeida, he kind of had a looked like he almost was going for a head and arm triangle choke there for a minute, but released it pretty quickly. And then there wasn't really, like I said, once Jonathan Almeida would take him down, he wouldn't do anything, wouldn't really search for submissions or uh, or really any ground and pound. He just kind of laying and praying and thinking that he could win that way. But with a fighter that controlled like had most of the control time in the fight is pretty nice, I guess. Seeing every once in a while judges not giving a fighter any kind of score and giving really any points to a fighter for doing that, because Alexander Volkov defeated Jelton Almeida a decision, a split decision. It was a 3 round, 5 minute round, 15-minute fight, and it was a 28-29, and then 29-28 and 29-28. So one of those refs must have been giving Jelton Almeida a little bit more credit for the consistent takedowns and the control time, but the other two didn't. So we got the pick right. We picked Alexander Volkov, and we're hoping that this would be an impressive performance. Get an impressive finish or just a really good fight between either Alexander Volkov or Jelton Almeida, and that would maybe kind of lead into a title opportunity against either Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gane, whichever guy won on the night. But we know how that ended up turning out, so that this wasn't a really impressive victory by Alexander Volkov. I'm kind of okay with him maybe having to wait a little bit longer until he gets his title opportunity, because what he did wasn't impressive anyways. But we got the pick right, so that's enough. So now then, on to the third fight on the card, another bout that we kind of looked at, like if we get an impressive win from Umar Nurmagomedov or Mario Batista, then maybe this could be the next title contender for Merab Dashwillis, the bantamweight title. But we picked we this was another one. We picked this one correct across the board. Besides the, I guess you did pick the time, because I picked Umar Nurmagomedov to beat Mario Batista uh, by decision, and he did. He won by decision 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. So even though he won every round, I wouldn't say that he was quite that dominant over Mario Batista. He was just a little bit better at kind of like at everything in this fight against Mario Batista, and he did do a good job of like taking him down and trying some ground and pound and looking for chokes, getting on his back a few times. But really, I mean, the biggest shots landed in this fight were by Mario Batista when they were standing and striking. There was one moment, I think it was in the first round, where Umar Nurmagomedov like rushed in trying to go for a double leg takedown, and Mario Batista just like lifted his knee up, and hell, he like hit him like right in the top of the head, and Umar Nurmagomedov's legs went limp for a little while, but he recovered really quickly. And then there was another moment in the fight where Mario Batista, I think he landed a good punch, or it was a high kick or something, to where like the best shots landed in the fight were by Mario Batista, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. There was no takedowns really by Mario Batista, even though towards the end of the fight, where he felt that Umar Nurmagomedov was getting a little bit tired, Mario Batista did start going for a couple takedowns, but I don't think he was ever really able to complete any of them. But Umar Nurmagomedov, I kind of like the versus Alexander Volkov versus Jelton Almeida fight. Like, yeah, I could see where you're starting to get up to where fighters are ranked like number two, number five, fighting like the only outcome really can be for them to get a title shot next. But it wasn't overly impressive or really that exciting of a fight. It was just, Umar Nurmagomedov just being just a little bit better at a little bit just about everything than Mario Batista, but not good enough to submit him or knock him out or anything like that, or really really damage him with some serious ground and pound, or leading something that leads to a submission. But I guess we'll have to see when next title shots are kind of hand dished out and handed out. All right. So we got that one. We got the pick right, and the method. Now go on to uh, the co-main event, the women's strawweight bout for it was for the vacant strawweight bout, women's strawweight championship. So we have some 150-pound women that made it to the co-main event for just a vacant belt. But we had Mackenzie Dern versus Berna Jandiroba, and this fight ended up going unanimous decision, 48-47, 48-47, and then actually a 49-46. I think I'd have probably gone with the 48-47. And I mean, I could have seen this fight being a split decision or really kind of going either way. But this fight was very similar to the first fight that these two had. What was that, like 5 years ago? They fought, and really the deciding factor in that fight is that Mackenzie Dern was just a little bit better with her striking. And in the first fight, there really weren't a whole lot of takedowns in the first fight. But there were quite a few in this fight. Berna Daroba, she was able to she tried like 20 takedowns, and was able to uh, finish 9 of them. And then even Mackenzie Dern had 2 of her own. But kind of like the Volkov Almeida fight, Berna Jandiroba had more control time and had more takedowns. But the thing is, when she'd take her down, she didn't really do anything. She just kind of laid there, and you're actually getting some pitter patter shots uh, from Mackenzie Dern off of her back. That I guess that scored better for her than just being able to lay on top. But Mackenzie Dern, anytime you could definitely see there was definitely an advantage in the striking, better striking by Mackenzie Dern, and both of them did a pretty good job with their strikes, and some elbows landed that both of them had a pretty good shiner at the end. Both of their eyes were pretty swollen, about swollen shut, not even close to what we ended up seeing from Tom Aspinall later. They were a lot worse. Not saying that they weren't as bad, but they were actually worse than what we saw Tom Aspinall deal with less than 5 minutes into his fight. But yeah, I picked Verna Janadoba to win this fight by decision. I think she just lost a close one, and depending on how has a get back, Janadoba Verna, how she responds to this loss, and if Mackenzie Dern is able to defend the belt a couple times, I could see a trilogy between these two, even though Mackenzie Dern won the first two. But yeah, that was the only fight that I didn't really get correct off of pick and method. But it was still a really close fight. All right, then. Now on to the main event. I know everyone was waiting for this, and I've said it. I'm saying it about the third time. I'm so glad I didn't stay up till midnight. I didn't have to stay up till midnight to witness this. Thankfully, it was around like 3 p.m., 3:30 Central Time, which was nice because of how it ended. Because the whole card was kind of a dud. The main card, besides the Rockage, uh, getting to see Rockage knocked out. But I actually picked Cyril Gane to win this, and I thought he was going to win this by knockout. And I thought really all he had to do was get Tom Aspinall in the second or get in the third round. So we're at like the 4:30 mark, 4:35 mark or so of the first round, and I'm like, all we got to do is get to the second round, and I think I'm going to be spot on with this pick that by the third, and if he can make it to the fourth round into the championship round, Tom Aspinall is going to just be so exhausted and so tired that he's just going to wilt under the pressure of Cyril Gane. And that's how the first round was going and looking. Tom Aspinall not really able to land a whole lot. Cyril Gane was just busting him up, busted his nose up, had his whole face was kind of bloody by the time the fight was stopped. and it looked like Cyril Gane was doing pretty much exactly what I predicted and was expecting, but didn't get to see the end of it. So Tom Aspinall, he was upset that fans were booing him because it felt kind of like his decision a little bit. But I can also understand it wasn't necessarily they're mad at Tom Aspinall because the fight ended in an accidental eye poke. More that they were just frustrated for paying for the tickets and the travel time and just their time in general. But yeah, Tom Aspinall, he's catching quite a bit of heat now for like right after he got poked in the eye, he literally just went right over to his corner or the neutral corner and was just like, I can't see. And that's something if you watch UFC enough, most fighters when they get kicked hard enough in the nuts or get badly eye poked, unless their eye is like literally like swollen shut or bleeding or something, most of the times they either just don't respond or they say no. I can see, because they don't want the fight to be stopped in the manner that it was. And I mean, they showed a couple replays of the eye poke. And what's just a little odd about it is that he got eye poked. I'm trying to think. It's the right one that he was having the most trouble with. But like when you see the eye poke, you almost see like like the middle finger almost go like looks like knuckle deep in the left eye, and then kind of just the index finger, or maybe it was the middle finger and the ring finger, just kind of scrape over like the closed eye of Tom Aspinall. But I've heard that when people talk about eye pokes, that a glancing, a glancing poke can be worse than just like straight up gouge into the eye. So maybe when it glanced off of it and just kind of raked off of it, maybe the fingernail or something scratched the eye. But I think you could even hear a moment like kind of whispering where you could hear like the doctor saying like, yeah, it's damaged. Like I can see some damage and some redness, but he can see. So man, it's just a weird scenario to where, man, Tom Aspinall, he's kind of lost kind of his aura, for not fighting through that. But I can understand why you wouldn't, but I can also see why he's catching heat for not doing it because like if you compare like his eye injury to Bilal Muhammad, which he wasn't able to continue because of that fight, or Daniel Cormier, who did end up uh, finishing that fight, or you have Michael Bisping, who literally lost an eye in a fight and then continued to fight several fights after that with only one eye, or Shahar Bullet doesn't have an eye, or he does have an eye, but it's white, like you can't see out of it. So, and then the Tom Aspinall, heavyweight champion, supposed to be baddest on the planet. Man, it's kind of hard to agree with that, to really not see. And then because he wasn't winning the first round, probably was going to lose the first round 9-10 or so. It also begs the question: did he look for a way out? Is that why he was like that? He was more quickly to say, "Oh, I can't see. I want to get out of here. Maybe need to go back to the drawing board because what I'm doing against Cyril Gane ain't working right now." But what kind of the conclusion to this whole thing is that Tom Aspinall wanted to fight John Jones for the heavyweight championship so bad, but I can almost guarantee you that fight would have ended in a no contest too if Tom Aspinall's so quick to call off a no contact or say he can't see after getting eye poke. Because I can guarantee you he would have got a pretty good eye poke by John Jones. So if he wasn't able to uh, fight his way through that, or if it wouldn't have been like in the later rounds to where they judge it from where the eye poke happened, then had no chance of beating John Jones anyways. So Tom Aspinall, we mentioned how we thought have a new title contender maybe in Alexander Volkov, but because that's a no contest, I guess we'll have to wait on that, and I guess we'll hear soon here in the future if we're going to have a rematch between Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane. And I think even though now Tom Aspinall got to get back in the ring for or the octagon for 4 minutes and 35 seconds, even though he hadn't been for 2 years, maybe him going back to the drawing board or maybe doing more studying and training for Silicon, maybe there'll be a different outcome. But honestly, if they do fight again, there is a rematch. I think I'm going with the same exact pick for Silicon because yeah, we've seen Tom Aspinall definitely can't handle an eye poke, but I still believe he can't handle going into the third, fourth, or fifth round either. And I think he'll just wilt under the pressure that Silvergon had for him on that night. And I can see why Silvergon, yeah, I understand he's the one that eye poked him, but he had to know, his corner had to know that he was in control of that fight. Even though there was 4 rounds left, he was in complete control of that fight. But anyways, that's UFC 320, Aspinall versus Gane. Very disappointing card, and one of the last cards on the year. There's only about two left, and this was definitely a stinker. But there were some brutal knockouts, and you got kind of a historic moment in the heavyweight leg locks by Valter Walker, having 4 of them now is impressive. But let's see. The last thing here is just the bonus awards. You had some $50,000 bonuses handed out. You had fight of the night was Ludwig Klein versus Mateus Rebecki. And that was a good fight. Really, why it was such a good fight is because Ludwig Klein, who ended up winning that fight by a majority decision, 29, 28, 28, 27, and 28, 27, is that he got beat up pretty good, like dominated in the first round. So him coming back and winning this fight by a majority decision was really impressive. So I definitely would agree that Ludwig Klein and Mateus Rebecki deserve the fight of the night and their $50,000 bonuses. And then the performance of the night, we actually got our knockout of the night and our submission of the night because obviously Quillen Skill killed that brutal knockout over Muhammad Nasrat with that crazy KO head kick, not a TKO, not a head kick and punches, but head kick KO, like done, like we said, shivering and shaking on the pavement, twisted face down on the mat at the 2:30 mark of the first round. And then obviously we've mentioned it about a half a dozen times. Walter Walker's submission, his heel hook at the 124 mark of the first round, got him his performance of the night. But because we got one of each, I like to call it your knockout of the night and your submission of the night. So all those guys got $50,000 bonuses, and really that was the only like best part of the UFC. And all the bonuses came off of preliminary fights. That's pretty much all you need to know about UFC 320, and definitely the pay-per-view or the ESPN Plus card or whatever. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So can I get a check, please?